had a great Christmas, and 2024 is off to a great start. I'm liking seeing people already whip out their phones here to sign in to our monthly Founders Blend meeting. This is just a good way for us to keep your email and make sure that we can send out updates, and then also gives us a good idea of attendance. Well, my name is Sammy Steele Thomas. I am the Business Retention and Expansion Coordinator at Midland Development Corporation. And in my role, I've been with MDC for 2 years now. I meet with local businesses each month, and I kind of pick their brains about, okay, what is it like running a business? What are the pain points? What are the high points? What is finding employees like? What are your day-to-day logistics? What are your headaches? Things like that. And as I was meeting with more and more businesses in 2022, there was a lot of entrepreneurs that I talked to where they were like, it's just really hard to run a business. Sometimes I just need to talk to somebody else who deals with it. Because when you're an entrepreneur, oftentimes it's a lonely job because you don't necessarily have a lot of people that understand the operations unless, you run it with your spouse. And then that's other dynamics. And sometimes you need to talk to another couple that run their own business and see, okay, how do you balance it all? And so that's why we started Founders Blend. And this is a time to not only expose Midland to other local businesses in the area and give them a platform, but it's also just a good way to hear, wait, you're struggling on work-life balance and how do you grow your family and also grow your business too? Sometimes it's just good to hear, I'm dealing with that as well. And so that's why we've started Founders Blend.
On the web.
Oh, okay, thank you, Sarah. So for how many of you guys, this is your first Founders Blend event? Well, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. So Founders Blend, yes, while it started in those early conversations, talking to local businesses here, it's been a labor of love for a multitude of organizations. So we have been working with the Midland Chamber of Commerce, with Second Story Coworking, with UT Permian Basin, with Midland College, with Film Hunter, or I always say it wrong, you guys, with Film Hunter, with, I think I've mentioned everyone, with BAM Consulting. We've worked with a multitude of entities that when we brought this idea to them, they're like, that is a need. This is just something in addition to what our Chamber of Commerce already offers. And so we just want to thank those community partners who have helped make this possible. And then each month is made possible by donors who donate coffee that you enjoyed today. So our coffee was brought to you by Corporal Ray's. And each month we have different businesses that show off, that donate breakfast foods or coffee or the goods for providing those things. Because we want this to be free and open to the public indefinitely. And then also Midland College BEDC that provided Jason's Deli this morning. So if you see Midland College around, thank them because this wouldn't be possible without them. So each month at a Founders Blend, we hear from 2 businesses that share their story. It's just very brief, and they explain how they got started. And then a large portion of the presentation is actually just a Q&A between, I will help to MC it, but be thinking as you hear their presentation, they touched on this part about social media. I want to ask about that. Or if, public speaking isn't so much your thing, go up and introduce yourself to them afterwards. You will get as much out of this as you put into it. And so just something to keep in mind. Okay, well, without further ado, to keep everyone on track here and so you can get back to the office, you are going to hear from 2 local businesses today, 40 Wolves and the Fuel Bar. We're going to hear from 40 Wolves first. And so a little background on 40 Wolves, led by Ryan Shuchuk and Midland native Terry Avery. It's a leading video marketing company specializing in high-impact social media content and strategies. They empower local businesses and entrepreneurs to excel in the digital world. In addition to hosting the popular Best in Midland, Texas podcast, they have recently expanded their offerings with a full-service podcasting studio, reinforcing their commitment to innovate media solutions in West Texas. Without further ado, Ryan, take it on over.
Hello.
Here, I'll not block this, I guess. 1 second. Adderall just kicked in. Let's go. All right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Siri. Before I start, I just want to get a quick sort of temperature check. Raise of hands, who are the business owners? Where are the business owners at? Okay. Perf. Where are the marketers? You're in here. I know you are. All right, both my people. All right, so boom. So while we're focused on podcasting in 2024, I'll kind of go into just a quick background. 40 Wolves Studios, like Sammy said, 40 Wolves Marketing, 40 Wolves Studios, call it what you want. Again, just opened up our podcast studio in downtown Midland. We're inside the Petroleum Building for now. Editing, recording, social media clips, the rest. You can basically just come in, sit down, record, and get a ton of content. Best Midland, Texas, that is our free to join local business directory. Add your business for free, add your events, causes, the such, and then coupled with that, we have our podcast. Again, content machine for us, and we'll be looking into turning it into a promotional platform as this year goes on. Next. Okay, so a little background on me. I'm originally from Las Vegas. I moved here at the end of 2020 in the P word with my wife Tara to be closer to her family. She's from Midland. I've worked, my first job was as a web designer in 1997. So I was 6. Okay, perfect. I've worked for companies, one of the larger ones, Vegas.com. I ran social media for Vegas.com for a number of years. 1 million followers on every channel you could think of at that time. TikTok wasn't a thing yet. Essentially just making Vegas seem more exciting than it already is. That was my job. Bulletproof Coffee was another one where I was in charge of all the Facebook advertising campaigns. I've spent tens of millions of dollars on Facebook ads over the last, 12 years, I guess. The day you could advertise on Facebook, we were advertising. Monthly budgets looking at like anywhere between $600,000 and $750,000. So totally used to spending $10,000, $20,000, $25,000 a day on Facebook ads. So they work. True, they work. Brings us to today. So, my background again, social media marketing, Facebook advertising, web design, user experience design, lead generation. I pretty much run the gamut in the digital marketing world between, starting on Mozilla and running full departments for B2B. Not my favorite. B2C, I'm with you. Today, after moving here, again, decided, I can do a dozen things in marketing, want to work for myself, don't really want to build somebody else's dream again. After being here 3 years now, I recognized, one, videos where everything is going, and I really just not super passionate about designing your website or doing SEO. Can I do it? Sure. Do I want to? I don't. So I'm basically very video-focused marketing, which would then bring us to our client list. Kidding. So just again, some of our clients, Patrick Payton, I'm sure you'll recognize him. Janine Pruitt, Ariel Lone, Cindy Payton, back there in the back. Brad Barnes, and we have a list of others here in Midland, still some back in Vegas and all over the world. But our love is local. So we're trying to transition away from any client that's not in this area. Okay, now we can go next. Perfect. So, cool. Well, why video podcasting? So, I guess there should have been an asterisk there. When I say podcasting, what I really mean is long-form video. Okay, TikTok ruined everybody's brains with short-form clips, and they're great, don't get me wrong, but long-form is still where it's at, and the reason why we focus on long-form is because of the repurpose. So, why we started a podcast, my wife and I, to where now we are basically advocating everyone else. Started a podcast and or long form. So, essentially, it creates a content juggernaut. With our clients today, especially on the podcasting side, they can come in, sit down for 2 hours a month, essentially making 2 episodes, and that can turn into a month's worth of content on social media where I know everybody really wants to be, right? Views are the currency today. And so we specialize in getting eyeballs and getting views. But in addition to that, you can turn those episodes into blog articles. I'll tell you right now, every episode that I produce for myself or my clients, I use AI, in about 10 minutes to create a full-on article for LinkedIn or your blog. By the way, LinkedIn articles, monsters right now. So if you're not utilizing that, you should be. But I'm not a writer, I let a computer write it for me because it's just basically repurposing the content that was talked about in this hour-long episode. Same with the email newsletter. So again, the video can turn into written, and you still need the written. Here's why. Boom. Nice. Quick little, Sammy told me to put this on. She said achievements and things like that. But just so you get this idea. In 2023, our Best of Midland podcast had over 12 million views across social media, YouTube, Instagram's in there, TikTok's in there. Again, it speaks for itself, right? Like, you create authentic, you create interesting content, and people will be attracted to it, even if it's in this little 30-second snippet. And then the real loyal people and the real advocates will go and find where I can hear more, see more. By the way, video podcasting. Audio podcasts, they're great, but they don't help in social media at all. Nobody's listening to an audiogram or whatever that is. It's video. Now keep in mind, the video podcast is also applicable to audio. You just throw it on Spotify, you throw it on Apple, it's there. All right, so, me and the boss. Okay, so next. All right, so I'm gonna go this way, again, improves your SEO. This is why you want to, again, video, podcasting, long form video, but also turning it into written. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. Beaten by Google. Turns out Google owns YouTube. So Google is going to prioritize YouTube videos in search. Obviously, they own it, right? So, I did a quick search for Midland Run Crew. Oh, Robert Gomez, always trying to get me to run. Not doing it, Robert, if you're here. Okay, cool. Our podcast shows up, first page. It's an hour long, and then the chapter's going from there, followed by Midland Run Crew's page on our website. Again, free to add yourself. Followed by an article that I took from that video and threw it in a LinkedIn an article on LinkedIn, right? This is all first page, right? Now, I didn't do a search for Starbucks, right? But if your business wants to rank higher, especially if you're a local brick and mortar, take advantage. All right, improves your SEO. Fantastic. Boom. Perfect. I think that at the end of the day, I said views are the currency, and they are. But to me, the biggest KPI or indicator, performance indicator, is in starting a podcast are the relationships that you're going to build. There's absolutely no way that I would ever have the mayor, former and current, in our studio if it wasn't for sweet referrals. But, the mayor's office called, and I was like, am I getting evicted? I don't know. Am I getting banished from Midland? No. Oh, the mayor wants to shoot a podcast. Great. Perfect. Then when she came into the building, I go, can you get somebody to fix the AC? She said no. Didn't have no money. But here's the idea, right? Like, you run a business, right? You have a business podcast. Keep in mind, right? We're not talking about like starting a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles podcast. Certainly, if you're a big fan, do your thing, right? But we're talking about for strengthening your business. So if it's me and I'm a host and I run a business, all my guests are going to be in that same industry, right? Now you're both looked at as experts. You're both looked at as thought leaders. And the fact of the matter is, I want to punch up, right? There's people that you want to get in touch with. You want to strike a deal with. Invite them on your podcast, right? They want to talk about themselves and their business, and they want content for social media, and so do you. It's win-win. So relationships that you're going to build, number one, even over views. At the end of the day, you're going to start a podcast or not. It's going to get 50 views, right? You're not Joe Rogan, turns out. But that piece of content, by the way, lives on YouTube in perpetuity, forever, right? It's going to get views as you go. As long as what you're talking about is somewhat applicable, and agnostic to the times, value's value, right? You need to be providing free and high quality value at scale to the masses without any ask, right? Sammy said, don't make this a sales pitch. You can go ahead and say, don't make this a sales pitch. I said, perfect, because I'm a terrible salesperson. I just go, here's what I'm doing, or here's what you should be doing, and I go, see you later, because I just want everybody to win, right? I love working with local businesses. I love working with small businesses. This is my first small business that I've ever owned, right? Let's help each other. What's next for us is podcast department. 40 Wolves is probably going to take a back seat and just be like, the S Corp. Really, for me, it's that aspect of like, we get asked all the time, can you help with consulting? Can you help with mentoring? I want to start a podcast. At the end of the day, you don't need to use me. You don't even need to come to my studio. You can sit at your desk and pop an iPhone there and record. Just record everything. Everything's content. So we're going to look to build out consulting, studio creations for other people, things like that. That's what the podcast department comes in. And then our big boy is Create Midland, which we're looking to build out a full studio, creative studio for the public. This is not a lock and key. You need to be our client in order to come in. This is, if you're creative, come and create. If you're a marketer and you have clients, come and create for your clients, right? Look to have, stage, host a workshop, sell ticketed events if you want to. Very collaborative, very creative. That's what we want to build out. Put it out there to Midland. Let's find some capital for that, but that's where we're at. So, I don't know what else is next, but that was the end. So, listen, you can stop by our studio anytime that I'm not recording, and come check it out. Come and ask me 1,000 questions. I assure you, I don't have a course or a book or anything like that to sell you. But you can pick my brain anytime. And like I said, the more podcasts that appear here in Midland, the better, the more proof that it's working. So start a podcast.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Ryan. You can take a seat if you'd like. It'll be just like a podcast, but without the...
Are we supposed to mic these? That's right.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's for our...
They've got
YouTube
fancy
video
shotgun
that you'll see
mics.
afterwards. So, Ryan, something that really stuck out to me about your presentation, you only moved here in 2020, and, sometimes Midland is a different market. It takes people, you got to know someone to get something done sometimes. So what was it like breaking into Midland's market?
It was rough, right? Like, I'm a very social person. I love to network. I didn't know anything about oil and gas.
Oh. Do you know?
Shocker,
now?
I still don't. I think midstream. I have no idea. I think from my perspective, my sort of like social proof was my wife, right? She has ties here. She was born and raised here. So at least I can be like, well, yes, I'm this guy from Sin City, but I'm with her, so let me in the door. But also, I think the aspect was I just always look for an underserved market and see if I can fill the role, right? Like, I came here and I go, all right, well, from a digital marketing perspective, this town's a bit behind, right? Like, again, Vegas, I've done a ton of work in Seattle and things like that. So I go, all right, well, I'm not the best at SEO, but it's not that hard to rank on the first page here, right, with just some basic things. But then, again, like I said, turns out I go, but I don't want to do things just because I can. I also want to be passionate about it. And I was like, I am not passionate about SEO. It's terrible. But yeah, I recognize, and I think my wife helped me. She goes like, hey, the Vegas Ryan persona, because again, I was the guy from, Vegas.com going like, come find me. We're going to party tonight. This is the stuff. Yes, you know, Blue Man Group's here. We don't do that. You know what I mean? And she was like, that persona is not going to play here. And so I really had to like go, all right, well, let's retool. But at the same time, like, I look how I look. I am what I am, right? I kind of go against the grain. But so far, I mean, here's what I recognize. The people are super nice.
Right.
In the first 2 days I was here, I was like, this is what Midland's like? And she goes, yeah. She's like, everybody's super nice. She goes, everybody's going to know your business because it's smaller, but everybody's super nice. I'd never waved to a neighbor in my life. Ever. And now I'm doing the whole, like, when I'm driving, just going, the nod, and I was like, I love it here. Like, within 2 weeks, I was like, we're here. Like, I love it here. So.
That's great. Well, you also, you know, this was naturally a passion for you. And I think there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs in the room where what they're doing now is a passion of theirs. Now, passion is one thing, but how do you then monetize your passion?
Woof. I mean, we're still trying to figure that out from like a Best of Midland perspective.
Yeah.
I'm big on, not wanting to monetize until a couple things, right? One, you've reached some sort of like critical mass. Like, I said, well, we could charge, I guess, to be on Best of Midland, but in the first month, but I go like, we don't have any traffic, so there's no value there, right? Like, we're not Yelp, but at the same time, no one likes Yelp. So, try to be that. I lose sleep if I feel like I'm not providing the most value I can to clients. But from a monetization perspective, it's a rough play, right? Like, I'm probably not the best person to speak about that. Like I said, I'm terrible at sales. I'll give it all away for free if I can. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, I don't go into this going like, oh, by the way, start a podcast because you're going to be a professional YouTuber and make tens of thousands of dollars per month. I want to set some sort of like realistic expectations. So yeah, the sponsorships roll and stuff like that, but you got to be playing the long game, I think, right? You're trying to get money quick. Go to Vegas. You'll figure it out there.
You're not the first business owner who said, I would give it away for free if I could. But then you've got to pay staff, or you've got to pay to have a space to rent out. It's hard to pinpoint valuing yourself when you are oftentimes selling, sure. Not selling yourself, but selling the product that you produce. I think that resonates probably with quite a few people. Something else that probably resonates, and there's a few husband and wife business owners in the room, and that's probably adds some certain dynamics to running a business. And I like how you put the slide so beautifully, boss, and then you. What is it like running a business with your wife?
It's fun, right? I think that, we definitely have very specific and separate roles in the business. Like, she's not the marketing background, the creative background. She's hospitality, right? She is finances, right? She runs the books. So when I say that she's the boss, right? Like, I got every purchase that I want to make that I can't make. It's, I got to structure it through her, because otherwise we would have zero money. But I think we also recognize that, like, we are at home all, at nights, things like that. And so we were in the same office for the first probably 6 months that I was here, 2 different rooms. And I guess that part was nice, because it was like, if we were sitting next to each other day in and day out, you just be kind of like, yeah, I know you said that, and you said it 5 times already. You know what I mean? Things like that. That would be her saying it to me. I wouldn't dare do that.
Of course not.
But I think having the like very specific roles, I don't touch the finances at all. I don't even know what's in the account, right? If somebody's like, hey, how do we pay you, or do we invoice you? I go, you're going to talk to Tara.
Yeah.
I'm totally staying out of that side. So I think that's probably helps for us.
She wears her hat, you wear yours.
If we were both the creative and the marketing, that would be rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine so, and I'm sure that speaks to a lot of people here. Does anyone have any questions for Ryan here? Anything that come to mind? Yes, Brian?
That slide you put up about the views, I think it was like 12 million I mean, that's bigger than our area, right? So how is that playing out? Like, are you able to see, like, geographically, like, where, I mean, I'm guessing most of those views are coming from Midland, but what's the reach?
Most of those views are not from Midland.
They're not from Midland.
No.
So,
I mean, here's my take on that, right? Like, when I say views of the currency, yes, from a business perspective, right? Was there 100, 150,000? Like, I couldn't see most of those people anyway, right? But if you want to be looked at as an expert, if you want to be looked at as a thought leader, if other doors, can be opened from this, like, you just don't have I can't go like, all right, I'm going to post this TikTok, but I only want people in Midland to see it. Here, everyone listen up. If you definitely want this area to see your content, we're going to run ads. Because then we can target the heck out of it, right? But you don't have that ability. So it goes out there, 20,000 views, 200 views, right? I don't know the outcome, and I can't control the outcome or where it's going to. But at the end of the day, it's just social proof, right? It's like, well, the content's either good or it's not, right? I mean, does that help in any way? I mean,
yeah, it's interesting. I thought it would have been a little more like you're saying, like if you want to target an area, like trying to get a message out to an area, you target that. But but I understand what you're saying. Like if it's good content, then it's going to be received.
I mean,
outside.
Right. I want it to be. I want the content to be agnostic, right? So, for example, we titled the podcast "Best of Midland, Texas." That was just a branding play because we want to become a media platform, right? At the end of the day, the conversations that we're trying to have with business owners and entrepreneurs and personalities or whatever, I'm trying to make it agnostic to. You don't have to live in Midland to understand, right? You're never going to hear me talk to somebody about, isn't it crazy that when it rains that Wadley floods, right? Because I'm sitting there going like, people are waiting to swipe away from your content, right? And they're going to go, what are you talking about, dude? Bye, right? I'm trying to make it like, tell me how you started your business. Why did you start your business? What are the struggles? It's essentially Founders Blend-esque in an hour-long conversation, right? I wish it could be longer. I would love to talk to John Scarber for 24 hours. Right? Because I'm just fascinated by it. But again, I'm sitting there going like the struggles, because here's what we're finding. Even this past week, we're getting a ton of views on YouTube for an episode with Ryan and Ashton Hooper of Hops and Bubbles and Hoop and Barrel, right? And again, YouTube's a search engine, right? So people are searching, and people are searching for, how do I start a mobile bar business? Right? And so I recognize that because I am an SEO person, right? So I'm going like, what are people searching for? And how can I ask a question to these people with this sweet, underhand, slow pitch and let them knock it out of the park, right? So every question I ask is essentially a search query to an extent. I go on TikTok and go, what are people searching for on TikTok that's applicable to this business? What are people asking on YouTube? And then I go, here you go, here's the topics. This is what we're talking about, right? So, yeah, Midland or otherwise. I think it's behoove. I don't ask people to just talk about things that are like, yes, I know you want people in your door and things like that, but at the end of the day, like, visibility is visibility, right? And you want to be looked at as the expert in your business.
Right. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, Rana.
Hello.
Thank you for speaking here. Could you talk a little bit more about the copyright of the videos that are created over there, how it is designed right now, like if owned by your company or the one who comes and create it, because at the end of the day, it would need to be monetized. So how is the copyright situation for the videos which are created?
Gotcha. So in coming basically off the street to record a podcast, the only thing, I'm not a contractor, I'm not a lawyer, right? But I've kind of made this aspect of, typically it's like whoever hits record owns the video or owns the content. I don't work in that realm. You own it. Basically, like if, again, from YouTube or whatever, like it's your channel. I just upload the content there. But there's like a sort of a give and take it going like, as a marketing person, I can use this content to market, right? And at the end of the day, again, even with Best of Midland, it's like, you want me to, right? Like, but I don't take them and do other things and, sell it off like that. And so from a copyright perspective, I really haven't run into that, I guess, yet. But again, I'm super flexible. Like, it needs to, make it make sense, right? And whatever that takes. But if the copyright issue is an issue, then I'd be like, well, grab a tripod, grab your camera, hit record. And all the time, by the way. Document everything.
Any other questions? Yes.
Ryan, sorry, back here. We met a couple months ago,
Yeah.
and you said that it was going to be difficult to expand because you're so passionate about being the editor of all video content. So now that you're expanding, how are you going to step back and allow other people to have that editorial role?
That's a struggle for me right now. Is I spend too much time editing my own podcast, which I recognize was I need to spend less time editing my own podcast because the clips are the gold, right? The clips are what you're getting out of it. So if I'm spending hours and hours and hours editing the episode, I can't spend that time back on the clips. And I made a goal for Best of Midland this year, 400 pieces of video content this year. And here's the thing, it's not that hard to do, and you have no other choice but to win at that point, right? If you're flooding everybody's timelines with your face, you're the expert now. It doesn't matter. Like this whole thing of no one walks into a room, I'll say real estate agents, so nobody walks into a real estate room of all real estate agents and go, hi, I'm Ryan Shuchuk, I'm the 18th best real estate agent in Midland. No, you go, I'm the best, right? They might know, yeah, in home sale, I go, but they see my content more, they see my face more than you. So to the public, I'm the one. Hiring editors is number one on the list. Stepping away from that role in terms of I don't want to see my face on the video. I'm too invested in that. But yes, for me, editing will kill your podcast, by the way. Right? Most podcasts last about 7 episodes, right? Pre-production will kill it, because now you're sitting there going I got to find people to come on this thing and work calendars and things like that. And post-production will kill it, right? So I would say hire fast, fire fast, but that would just be parroting somebody out there, and I haven't even done that yet, right? So this year for me, it's hiring editors at minimum and finding more space, because walls will kill me as well.
Well, just to be cognizant of people's time,
Please.
We'll ask one more question here. And the question is, you've worked for other brands, but this is your first brand where you've owned it, start to finish. What has that taught you?
Hire. But turns out you need capital, so you do have to charge something. I think for me, it's this aspect of yes, just finding the right people. There's absolutely no way that this business could have started without my wife. In the past, yes, I've worked for companies, but I've done the side hustle things like that, and there'd be times where I just totally forgot to invoice people and get paid and stuff like that. It was what it was, right? I think if you're really going to scale, it's finding the right people and then literally going you got it, cool, right? I think my crippling ADD plus OCD that's very hard for me to do, but it's basically a punch in the face until I recognize it and I go, all right, well, time to do that now. I'd say, yeah, I mean, that for me, that's the number one. That's the only thing that really comes to mind. I think everything else kind of works itself out.
Yeah, the cliche, you learn the hard way, sometimes says it best. Well, thank you so much. Let's give Ryan a hand. Thank you, Ryan. And here you go. Here's, you can take that coffee and put it in this. Maybe clear out the West Texas dust in
All
here.
right, let's start Founders Blind Podcast. We'll put product placement on.
Oh, yes. See how we did that? It's almost as if it was intentional.
Branding.
Yes, exactly. Well, you are going to hear from the Fuel Bar next, and from coffee to smoothies, cold pressed juice, and grab and go lunch options. The Fuel Bar, it is a cafe that specializes in all things healthy. Alexis Rice opened the Fuel Bar in the fall of 2019. The downtown cafe has become a popular spot, especially for young people. The Fuel Bar is experiencing more and more catering requests from companies for their smoothie bowls. And while West Texans might be used to break rooms having donuts, Chick-fil-A, or breakfast burritos, the Fuel Bar is providing healthier alternatives. Without further ado, Alexis.
I could not be more opposite of Ryan, and I'm not, for being a millennial, technology, I hate it. I literally write down my notes, and we're just gonna look at the website here. So a little bit about Fuel Bar and myself. Fuel Bar did open in August of 2019. It opened after wanting to explore a passion project. For a very long time, I've wanted my own coffee bagel shop employed by special needs kids. That's something that's been near and dear to my heart since I was honestly in elementary school. In order to understand what that looked like, I needed to run my own business, what I thought, and grow from there. So we opened August of 2019, and obviously the P word hit shortly after. And you had to get creative. What can we add to the table to get through this? Deliveries became something we never shut down, but we just had to get creative on how we could survive. Within that time, it was very common that we would get big orders in the mornings to take to offices, and that's kind of really what started pushing us forward. My target audience, I would say, is anybody within the health and wellness industry. Specifically right now, service companies that are taking large orders to these operators every morning. Some of the strengths I think that we have at Fuel Bar is our customer service. I know there's a few of my regulars in this room right now, and there's not many times that your car pulls into the parking lot and we have your order sitting on the counter. Having that one-on-one personal relationship is everything that I want. I think with the hiring situation that we have in Midland, you can have a mediocre product but great customer service, and people are coming back because that's just something that we've lacked throughout the years in booms and busts. And employee retention is another thing. I have a staff of 13 right now, and 4 of them have been with me for 3 years or more. And I think within the business sector or the restaurant sector, that's huge. But that comes with caring about that person. Whenever Sammy came to talk to me, I was like, that's caring about the ones that care about you that means gifting them something means more to me than anything. My juicer, I sent him to a Cowboys game this year with 2 tickets for him and a family member and a hotel. My manager turned 21 last year, and I took her to Vegas. I have probably gone above and beyond and co-signed on some things that I shouldn't have, but I believe in those people, and I want them to have a better opportunity than maybe what they would have without me. And that's not because I have the means really to do it, but that's where my heart is. And if I can pour into them and I get a little bit of loyalty out of that, that's the ultimate thing for me. What's next? Well, because of the background that I had with wanting to help out special needs kids, Diamondback, so one of my good friends, Erin here, she's corporate affairs for them, and they started rolling baristas, and basically they're taking MISD kids, special needs kids, and hiring them. So every Thursday morning, these kids are in there pushing a cart around with different breakfast items and whatnot, and Travis and Danny and Case and the phenomenal executive staff at Diamondback has given their employees credits essentially. So it's not costing the employees anything, but it's getting those kids interaction. It's getting those kids eye contact and face-to-face situations. And once they graduate from that program, they will now become Fuel Bar employees. And the coolest part about all of this, and I guess this is kind of a big moment of reveal, is Diamondback is helping fund me to put a location in their building. So those kids get to stay in a familiar area. They get to just work from downstairs instead of on all the floors. And that it's kind of just a full circle moment. Like, I busted my butt for several years working 60, 70 hours in that place. And this next step is beyond everything that I could have imagined. And I think giving back to the community is what I want more than anything in this whole situation, right? Like, we have healthy things and we have good customer service, but sometimes that's not enough. And if you are from here and you love this place, the next thing you can do is pour back into the community. And so I feel like that was my original mission. And I can't say mission accomplished because I think I have more to do, but it's definitely a really big start in what I want to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
She said 6 minutes, and I was like, okay, we gotta go.
Yeah, she really. I love the punctuality there.
Well, that is so exciting about Diamondback. That is a huge feat.
Yeah.
And I know, it's just one thing to the next thing, right, for a business owner. And so it sounds like this will be fulfilling a lot of things in your heart.
Yes.
Which is great. Well, you touched on, you guys, after I had my business visit with her, I was like, usually I hear about from business owners, it is really hard to find employees. And then I learned, you just have to take them to a Cowboys game and take them to Vegas, and then they will be loyal through and through. But regardless of that, you talked about creating an environment that you see, yes, okay, they're serving your business behind the counter, but how can you develop them long term where there is some loyalty? And that is hard to do, especially in a service industry, with waiters and waitresses and cooks and all of those things. Yeah. How did you figure that out? I'm sure it took some trial and error.
I can't say I figured it out. It was just in a friendship. Like, if I fill your cup, like, you're gonna want to keep me around, right? Like, it's a mutual thing completely. So, and side note, I actually don't work at Fuel Bar anymore. I own, but I took a job back in the oil field, which was my background before Fuel Bar, and I did that because I can pay my people more now. And that was another way to pour back into them, right? Because with McDonald's or whatever, paying $20 an hour, not a lot of small businesses can compete with that, especially if there's benefits and things like that. So it was a revolving door for a very long time. And I still have, 3 or 4 positions that are just a constant battle for attention. But if you don't take the time to care about that person, you can't expect them to care about you. And like I said, if I can, what they provide by showing up every day and providing good customer service, if I can just dig a little bit into my pocket and give them an experience that they wouldn't have, it's not only worth it for me and my heart, but it helps them feel more important. And I think making them feel that way is the most important thing I can do as a boss.
Right. And even, yes, aside from buying them things, you often just have honest conversations with them.
Yes.
And checking, okay, where would you like to grow? Mm-hmm. How can I help you get there, whether it's at the Fuel Bar or outside the Fuel Bar?
Yeah. And my next task is I would like to start a nonprofit type of business, I guess you could say. And my goal there is to raise money, whether it's through myself, friends. We talked about having bunco nights where we raise, it's $100 to come, but all of that money goes to this nonprofit. And then it goes to me being able to give my kids scholarship money. So many people that work in service industry miss that part of life. And I'm fine if it's a vocational program, right? Like plumbers, electricians, like we need them all. But I want them to have better. And I'm not saying working for me is bad, but I want them to have better. And if funding their education is something that I can help improve their life long term, I want to do it. So that's kind of my next step on just pouring back into them, because I think that's my job.
And aside from, workforce, another struggle oftentimes for service companies that, are restaurants is supplies.
Yeah.
And how do you get fresh food out here to West Texas? What is that like?
A nightmare. Currently, there's a coconut milk shortage in this town, and it's wild, and there's never a rhyme or reason. The hurricane that hit Florida like a year ago or whenever it was killed me on fresh strawberries for quite some time. For whatever reason, right now it's coconut milk, and the coconut milk thing happens roughly 4 times a year. Weird. But plastic, whenever the pandemic started, was interesting. You had local restaurants that were going to provide like to-go alcohol drinks call me, because we do juices, and they're like, hey, do you have any extra bottles? Like, we need to package these out. And it's been an interesting time to watch just the fluctuation of things that are available and when they're not.
And then, something else that sticks out that I'm sure a lot of people in here might be experiencing, you started the Fuel Bar because that spoke to your lifestyle and it was something you wanted to do.
Yep.
But then you also had a 9 to 5 and, a 9 to 5, but another job. How did you balance both things? You've got your job, you're growing a business. How do you manage it all?
In the very beginning of Fuel Bar, I had a full-time job in the oil field. And when I first opened Fuel Bar, it was supposed to be just an investment that I thought was going to be manageable. I had a partner at the time, and on the 3rd business day, my partner and the manager that we had hired didn't see eye to eye, and she walked out. And surprise, yeah, who knew? And I was there, and this employee had family that worked there, and then all of their friends. So 3rd day that we were open, I lost like 8 employees. And it was like, all right, what do you do? And I think maybe my biggest advice in this, there's one person that I know I can count on besides the Lord, and it's me. I will figure out a way to make it work. I will do whatever I can to make sure that something that I want to succeed doesn't fail, right? And so jumped back behind the counter, basically self-taught majority of what we did. And I did that in my real job for about 9 weeks in the beginning. And finally I just said, I can't. And I went to my boss at the time and I said, I've got to resign. He goes, a restaurant? Do you know what you're getting into? And I was like, no idea actually, but I've put enough money into this, like I have to see it through. And it took, like I said, it took 4 years before Fuel Bar had a good enough rounded employees to take over. And I'm still by there, and I check in with them every day. But it took about 4 years for me to kind of let some control go, which was honestly a really good thing, right?
Yeah.
And from what I hear, because I have plenty of friends that go by there that are very honest, it's still being held to my standards. And I think that is the most rewarding and pleasing thing that you could ask for.
So let me get this timeline right. You are doing both jobs for 9 weeks, and then you're like, okay, I got to switch gears here. And then it's about December of 2019, and there is a virus that was cooking. And then COVID-19 happens. How do you run a restaurant amidst a pandemic?
I'm going to be fully transparent on that one. I firmly believe that had Patrick Payton not been our mayor, there's a lot of us that would have gone under. Govern yourself, respect your neighbor was the biggest blessing that we could have had in that time. We never shut down a single day. beliefs are beliefs, and I didn't require a mask for an employee or a customer. I felt like that was your choice, and if you needed to be cautious, like, fine. I had an elderly couple that are still very loyal customers, and they were on the more, I don't want to say scared side, cautious side. They would order. Whenever they pulled up, I knew they would open their trunk. I would set it in there. And at that time, they couldn't find Clorox wipes. So every week, because they would order basically 2 acai bowls a day for their themselves, and I would put in a couple of deals of Clorox wipes and send them on their way. And I think the pandemic was almost like a catapulting time for us, because we remained true to, I think, who we were, and our West Texas values. And I think we just helped the community more. And I say this to this day, walking through HEB without a mask during that time and smiling at somebody was one of the best things you could do, because so many people hadn't seen a smile on somebody else's face in so long. And sure, they might have looked at me like I was the crazy spreader, but a smile just goes such a long ways. And that was just something that I was very passionate about, making sure that we made it through it, but we did it in a way that was still respectful.
But it was hard.
It was so hard. Yeah. I mean, like, and the cool part is, I had some teacher friends that couldn't teach anymore, so they became my delivery drivers. And deliveries just spiked like crazy because people didn't want to get out and about. Yeah. And it was an interesting time within, like, our walls, right? We had people that, quit because they lived with grandparents and they didn't feel safe. And it was a time that I think taught us more than any other time in our life, truthfully, about, like, hardships, getting through them, understanding how to succeed, and just deal with circumstances that you can't control.
I feel like when I talk to entrepreneurs about this, the pandemic has aged them. Not maybe necessarily looks-wise at all. It's just in a maturity and an experience-wise. They learned so much in that time. And it's all about pivoting.
It is.
As Ross Geller would say.
Well, any other questions? Yes.
Hi, Maria Borges with Idea. I have a question. When you were behind the counter during those 9 weeks managing your business, did you find some things that you were asking your employees were maybe unrealistic, that when you had to perform the job, you had to repivot kind of your strategy for your team? I had to clean sometime for my cleaning company, and at the beginning, so I understood that some things that, like, I was asking my employees to take pictures while they clean, that's unrealistic. Either you do one thing or the other. I was wondering if you had any of those things that you, after your experience.
I'm probably a little too honest. My expectations are high.
Yes.
And that for a lot of reasons, right? Like, we're in the food industry, but if you're going to work for me, like, I want you to grow from this. And there's not a lot of places that you might go afterwards that are going to have the same expectations. And so you might be the best employee they've ever had after dealing with that, right? I can't say that we did a lot of things different. How we packaged food, I guess you could say, was a little bit different. Normally, we would just, like, hand you a bowl, but this time it was, like, in a bag and spoon. We ended up changing how we did silverware, because right now it's just kind of, like, free, and then it was, like, individually packaged, that kind of thing. But for the most part, my girls were glad to be working. At the end of the day, like, they were just glad that they still had a job and that we didn't shut down, because it was very likely, and especially talking to gym owners or whatever else that was like a mandatory shutdown, we didn't face that. And so I think they were just glad to still make a paycheck.
Thank you.
I hope that answers that.
Brian, you had a question
Well, I
there?
was just kind of curious, when you started out, on how you chose your location. Were you specifically wanting to be downtown? Or Or is it just what was available is your question too?
Sick location downtown.
Like that, yeah, were you targeting downtown or just whatever?
So let me tell you. My first location, whenever I was like, if I want to do something else long term, like how do you figure this out? So I went to a gym that was downtown, and we had 5 smoothies on the menu, and we just worked during class times. And we weren't open to the public. It was just, if you were a member of that gym, we could make you a smoothie. Duke Edwards, who like owned Basin Burger and like still owns that building and whatnot. His son and I are friends, and Duke was walking out of that building one day and he goes, "Hey," so I'm sure if a lot of you are from or have been here for a while, Living 360. They wanted out of their lease, and Duke owns that building, and he said, "Hey, you should consider expanding." And I was like, sure, no. With what time, right? Like, and with what manpower, and I don't know the first thing about running a business. And sure enough, that was like the first week of May of 19, and they shut their doors Memorial weekend. I tried to transition employees. I asked, can you stay open so I can figure this out and kind of transition into what I'm going to do? And nope. So it's just a God thing, to be honest, that Duke had an opportunity for me to be there. They have been a phenomenal family to work with. Through the pandemic, I never asked for like a concession on rent. I felt like, we were going to, like, that's my duty. Like, I need to pay rent. He's never gone up on, like, he's never increased my rent because of it. And I'll be honest, at one point in time, my second location was supposed to be on the north side of town in a new development. And I wanted to, when I was raising capital for that, my idea, 10 people. 50,000 a piece. I might not use it all, but I feel like 50,000 for a lot of those people wasn't enough to just balk at. And first 3 people I asked, yes, hands down, we'll support you. I go to Duke. Hey, this is my idea. What do you think? And he started looking over some of the lease agreements and whatnot. And he was like, no, don't do this. And so part of that is an advice piece to say, like, surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, because I had no idea. And within those 10 people that I wanted to ask, one of them owns 19 commercial properties in town. One of them is my landlord. One of them is another good businessman. And I wanted to build a board of directors, essentially, to teach me a lot of things that I don't know. I can be in there and I can run a blender all day, but I don't know at the end of the day how a lot of business things work and what's smart. So luckily I had, a good person on my side that had a good location and just kind of fell in my lap.
Hey Siri, remind me to ask Duke Edwards to be on my podcast.
I mean, finding those good mentors, that's everything.
It's everything.
And we get a lot of questions at MDC about real estate, and real estate is such a different animal in just right now in general with interest rates, but especially in Midland. And more often than not, those success stories you hear, it was meeting the right person at the right time at the right place. And that requires some faith and fate to work hand in hand there.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just had a couple of comments. My nephew is high functioning autism.
Yes.
And he got a full academic scholarship to St. Edward's University.
That's awesome.
And he's just having a difficult time getting hired. And I'll tell you what, people are missing out. And you are so smart to see the talent in those children, because for reliability and being punctual and following processes and being kind in their heart. He's hired now with HEB, and he's doing the concierge, and they love him. So I was just gonna say, hats off to you for you're fueling their future, these children, and they need someone to see them as a person. Because hats off to you. And then a comment, Rotaries across the area have usually their meetings at breakfast or lunch. And it could be twofold possibly. They raise money for scholarships. So maybe you could reach out to all the local Rotaries in this district and your idea about the scholarship, and then maybe, there's some synergies there for you to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, I would love that. And I think that there's a lot of avenues and organizations that I haven't explored yet, just lack of knowledge or whatnot. So I would love that.
That's awesome. Well, one last question here. Yes.
So it seems like there's a coffee or smoothie bar on every corner, Midland and Odessa. What did you do to differentiate yourself from everybody else?
Well, as of like 3 weeks ago, I no longer do coffee because I agree, right? And that was something, when I took over Living 360's building, I didn't get their menu. I didn't get anything from them. I just bought their equipment. And they had a great coffee machine that was in there. But I have no knowledge of that. Like that, I've hired former baristas, and they were like, "This is nothing like we have at Starbucks. They're just so automated." And it ended up just being, you're right. Every corner has one now, or two, and we're done with that. As far as the smoothie goes, I think customer service, I'm going to say, has a lot to do with it. I think my location has a lot to do with it. As far as I know, this could be complete ignorance on my part. As far as I know, there's maybe 2 other places that come to my mind that do smoothies, and both are franchises. And I think that changes a lot of dynamic in a quality of a product. So that's what I'm just going to say, the quality of the product. And I think if you go to them and find something on the menu that's comparable on either place and then taste test them, I'm going to say ours is better. And I'm also paid to say that, so.
So it works out. Thank you so much. And you guys, you're welcome to stick around and continue to ask Ryan and Alexis these questions because, that is how you learn, right? You surround yourself with like-minded people that are also building and growing their own business. Yeah. So thank you so much, Alexis. We really appreciate it.
For ask questions, I have coupons.
Wow, it's so smart. Look at that marketing there. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for coming to Founders Blend. Our next meeting will be February 7th. And something that we are doing with Founders Blend is we are, as a means to reach all parts of the community, we are rotating our locations every few months. So we just had our little 3-month stint here at Midland College, and now it's time to go back downtown to Second Story Coworking. So in February, we will be back at Second Story Coworking. We'll do a few months there, and then we will do a few months at UT Permian Basin C building again. So we'll just keep rotating. But you can follow us on social media, and we will keep you up to date on who's presenting and where those locations are. And then also, if you're a business and you would like to share your story a little bit, or you would like to sponsor coffee or breakfast food, we have forms on our website that you can fill out. And because this is a relatively new thing that we've put together here, it's all about feedback. So if you are like, okay, hey, this time doesn't work, or I think you guys could try this, let us know, because the worst thing that's going to happen is, oh, we don't have the time to make that change, or here's why we tried that and it didn't work. But it's all about just growing and evolving together, and that just requires communication, right? So we really appreciate you guys coming out here. Again, you're welcome to stay, drink some more coffee, get some more food, mingle, introduce yourself to a few people that you haven't met before, and have a great rest of your January. We will see you in February.